Uh, Thank you very much. Welcome all. I am Rose Doherty. I'm the chair of the Needham Historical Commission, and I would like to confirm that everyone we expect to be here is here. And if members, when I call your name, if you would agree that you're here, and then I will call our guests also. Gloria Grice. Here. Okay. Don Lenkowitz.
Here.
Laura Dorfman.
Here.
And Jeff Heller, not yet, and Rick Hardy, not yet.
Oh, Rick's here.
Rick's here? Oh, there you are. Okay. So I know that Dylan will not be here tonight, and I expect that Jeff will be calling in soon. Okay, and we also have some guests tonight. We have in my screen, Mo Handel, who is a citizen, an esteemed citizen, Vadim, and your last name is Khait, right?
Correct. It's pronounced kite, not Kate.
Okay, thank you. And Robert Smart.
Yes, right here.
Jillian Cruz. Okay, and David Siebert. Are you here? You
There
are.
I am, yeah. I just unmuted, sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. So this is an open meeting of the Needham Historical Commission, and it's being conducted remotely as is consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of, believe it or not, March 12th, 2020, and has fortunately been extended because of the state of emergency because of COVID-19. So we are allowed to suspend public gatherings, and we must have the meetings in a publicly accessible location, which can be by Zoom, fortunately. So the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting, and ensuring public access, however, does not mean public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. All of you who are here certainly may comment. So for this meeting, February 28th, 2022, the Needham Historical Commission is convening by Zoom, as posted on the town's website. So let me give a few rules about Zoom meetings. You've all been Zoomed to death, so I know you know all of this. But you should be aware that other folks may be able to see you, so do take care not to share your screen on your computer because this meeting is public and it is being taped. It is being recorded, sorry. The materials have been sent to the members of this body, and we invite you to join us. Some business ground rules. Before we turn to the first item on the agenda, I will make sure that we have some ways of communicating so we're not talking over each other. I will introduce each item on the agenda, and then the chair will go down the line of members and those interested in the issue to provide comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. And when you do speak, please be sure that you have unmuted your phone and that you say your name clearly so that the notes can be taken accurately. When you are not speaking, please mute your phone. And for any response, I'm in charge, just to let you know. Okay, so I will tell you, I will give you the okay to speak. I've never had this kind of power. Yes, I have. I've run a classroom. They will do exactly as I wish. All right, now the first thing that we're going to be talking about tonight is that which has gone missing in my pile here. The first thing that we are going to be talking about is an application for demolition. And it is the application for demolition at 28 28 Wyoming Avenue. And it has been brought to our attention by Vadim Kite, got it right? And we will talk a little bit about, I'll make a few comments about the building. It is a house that was built in 1864. And when it was built, it was known as being located on Great Plain Avenue because that was the closest street to the house. However, there was always a road up to it. We know that the first people who owned it, it was an Irish immigrant and his family, and they stayed there for quite a while. And it is also known as the Broadley House for the other longtime occupant, and that the house was sold by the Broadleys in the 60s. And it has had a lot of different owners since then. Our purpose tonight as the Historic Commission is to fulfill our responsibility to the town. We have been set up to fulfill the requirements of the demolition process. And the first thing, demolition application process. And the first thing that we do is decide whether or not the house is historically significant. And that is what we are going to be doing this evening. So I will ask Gloria, because she has experience in all things Needham history, about the history of this house and things that we need to know about it.
Okay, we list houses, in the inventory for various reasons, some because they're unique and some because they're very old, some because of who lived there, and some because of what they represent in the development of the town. And that's very much the case with the Wyoming Avenue house. It represents a phase of the town's development when residents is shifting from the old center near Nahoyden Street into the area around the new center, Great Plain Avenue. It also represents a phase in which the first real wave of non-English immigrants is arriving in Needham. I mean, obviously, this is still English speaking, but these are the Irish were really the first wave of immigrants that came to Needham who were not either from the East Anglian counties of England or the Midland counties of England. Most of them came as a response to the famine, fleeing Ireland for the famine, and they set up their lives here. And so the house in its existence and its long endurance represents this change in population, this change in the development of the town.
All right.
It is also fairly decently preserved for its for its age, of its type.
Yes, go ahead, Vadim.
I think, well, there's been some updates, so I don't know when I should kind of summarize my piece of it, but the reason I interjected is it's not so well preserved anymore because there was a flood. 2 pipes bursted despite the heat being on, both on the opposite sides of the house. I had to call the fire department on was it a Saturday or Sunday to come in and shut off the water. The basement had about 4 feet of water in there. And I had to go to the police department to get them to call the emergency waterworks person to shut off the water from the street eventually. Ceiling collapsed, stairs were flooded. One of the bathrooms was destroyed. I have footage that I can send you guys or upload or however you would like to have me share that. But that's the development that's happened since, just as a kind of piece of context.
This was just recently? When?
This was about I want to say a month and a half ago. I gotta check the video because I don't remember the date. I had it jotted down, but my father-in-law was actually just looking at the house and he said that it's raining in here. I thought he was kidding, but yeah, that's what happened. The fire deputy said these things happen all the time, because I was kind of not shocked, but kind of confused why it would happen when the heat is still on. It was above 63 in the house. But he said he's seen this happen and happened to his house in Maine, where maybe the pipes were not winterized or whatever the case may be. But essentially, that's the update that I have about that.
Okay,
Yeah.
just getting some notes on it.
Okay, is that this the first time that this kind of thing has happened to the house, as far as you know?
As far as I know, yeah, yes. I don't have much history on the house other than what the neighbors have told me and stuff like that. I have not talked to the previous owner, but from what I understand is they made it their passion and hobby to get this registered as a historic house. And if I don't want to quote any neighbors, but something to the effect of, because they had nothing better to do. I don't mean to kind of add levity to the situation, but that's what they told me.
I was actually the person who discussed this house with them. They were very committed to the
Yes,
house.
they were
Yeah.
very that's probably
Yeah, the
a
previous
better
owner.
way. Yep.
They were very committed
And
to it.
Gloria, you and I spoke on the phone a few times as well. I think you spoke to my wife once also.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Are there any comments from members of the commission about this house?
I have a
Yes,
question,
Laura.
Rose.
Yes,
But do you own or occupy the home, or is it currently rented out to somebody?
Neither. I've been living at 100 Rosemary Way for 11 years in Needham.
So who
the
lives in the
house-
house?
Nobody lives in the house now. We essentially pipes bursted not too long after the house was purchased, and this was kind of happened in the process while we were deciding what to do with the house. Essentially, initially, we weren't 100% committed to raising it to build a new house. I talked to a couple of architects, kind of explore the feasible options. Somebody has to mute their phone.
it's me. Thank you.
So yeah, so the house was vacant, just pure coincidence. My father-in-law asked to go see it. He stopped by while I was at home with my kids, and then yeah, that was 5 feet of water in the basement that the fire department kindly pumped out.
When did you purchase the home? Because I'm looking at the registries of deeds and I don't see I see a transfer to a trust, but the name.
It's in a trust, yeah.
Nancy
that's-
Weatherall.
No,
Trust?
it's not on trust. It should be, when do we close? In January something, I want to say. I can't remember.
January 13th, 2022.
That sounds correct.
And how did you take title to the house? In what name?
It's an LLC,
Oh,
I think
that's,
28 Wyoming LLC.
got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, we are, it seems to me, we are taking a look at whether or not the house itself is historically significant, its place in Needham history, and apart from the horrible situation with the pipes bursting, whether we need to take a look at this as an historically significant house because it is on our inventory. Any comments about that?
Also, I want to actually kind of ask you guys if additionally, I don't know if it's in the notes or not, but there's, I think the house has been, I believe it's been expanded, because from the report that I received, it said that there's been additional room built or something like that, and a porch and a pool and whatnot. I guess some things were added to it since its inception, so to speaking?
Since 1864, yes,
Yeah.
there have been things added. On the east side, the area that is now where the entrance is.
Mhm.
But I don't think that affects its standing as an historic house. This particular commission has been in existence since 1976, and certainly all of these changes happened long before the historical commission existed.
And the changes are part of the life cycle of a house, all houses. Any house of significant age has seen alterations,
Mhm.
with incredibly rare exceptions.
Right. And one of the things that we take a look at now is when we are talking about historic houses. And if there are going to be additions, we have those put out of the sight of the public view of the house. And that's the way the Mass Historical Commission talks about preservation. Are there any other comments about this particular house? And yes, Rick.
Yeah, I just follow what Gloria had said. House was built in 1864, before there was even a Wyoming street. It was listed on Great Plain Ave, an example of the agricultural history of the town before major development. Not many of these left, and there may not be any of these left as things go. So the fact that it is on the inventory and it represents a period of time that existed in town at one point has some significance, at least to me. So.
Does anyone on the commission wish to make a motion to about historical significance? And then we can discuss some more, if you wish to.
I can make a motion,
Okay, thank you, Gloria. And it would be,
but since I'm writing and moving at the same time, this might be a little slow.
well, I'll take notes too then. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I move that in view of the previous, the actually relatively recent review of this house and its entrance into the inventory, that it does have significance to the history of the town. That is found to be significant to the history of the town.
Okay, and do I have a second? Okay, Rick, thank you. Thank you very much. I think that I should give you some more background here. If we take this vote and move that it is, agree that it is an historically significant house because of the place that it has in Needham history, it then means that we would go to our second step, which would be a public hearing in which neighbors would be invited and members of the public would be invited. And Kristen, who's in your upper left-hand corner, would help arrange that with Town Hall. We would also, as you know, you have to have ads in the papers and the letters out to the abutters. And that is the second step. So we have a motion and we have a second. Do we have any more discussion?
Just to clarify, yeah, the hearing that would occur would be whether or not to impose or not to impose a demolition delay,
Thank you.
which would
Thank
be
you.
that's the purpose of the next meeting.
Yes, that would be the next meeting. Exactly.
So any points regarding that would be made at that time, because right now it would just be essentially
Right now,
irrelevant.
we are going to make a decision about the house being historically significant, and then we have 45 days from now to have the public meeting. So that is calendar days, so it's April 14th is the deadline, absolute deadline. Okay, are we ready then to actually vote? Hearing no objections, I will ask Gloria. How do you vote? Do you vote aye or?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And Don?
Aye.
Okay. And Laura?
Aye.
Okay. And Rick?
Aye.
Okay, and I am also going to vote in favor of historic significance. So we will send you an email to that effect, Vadim, and we will also let you know when the next steps will be set up, and we will have a public meeting. And Kristen and I talked today about having it in person and by Zoom for those people who don't really want to come out. We could have a large place like Powers Hall, so people could still be distanced if they wanted to be. Okay, so we have taken, yes.
Sorry.
Vadim. Yes, go ahead.
So what was the date you gave? April what?
April 14th.
14, thank you.
Okay.
So,
Vadim?
and yes, in the letters and the subsequent, I guess, ad that I'm to take out in the newspapers, what date do I provide? You to be determined, or how is that? I mean, how does that work?
It has to be in the paper 2 times, and I believe it is 14 days. However, what I will do is give you the exact wording from the bylaws. Okay, and we will actually take care of putting together the notice to the abutters, and we can put together the language for the newspaper ad also.
Okay, but in the newspaper, I also have to specify the date of the hearing, right? Which is yet.
Yes, exactly. So
which-
you will. Yes.
Oh, you will provide all that. You will know the date of the hearing essentially by the time you.
Yes.
And
It will be
Mhm.
before April 14th.
Okay.
And we will get it as soon as we can find a place to have this. And the question is, since people are being more relaxed now, we might in fact be able to have something in person as well as by Zoom, which could involve as many people as possible, although I do find having to keep track of both meetings would be a little bit difficult. Okay, so we have in fact then, Vadim, we have declared the house historically significant, and we will move on to the next step and let you know within just a few days. But the
Do you-
time it needs to be.
do you? I still need to submit the. I think it says something like a demolition report, demolition plan review. One of
You need to, in the bylaws, it tells you the kinds of things that you need to get to us. And the sooner you get them to us, the better. What you plan to do. And the bylaws do spell out exactly what you have to do. And there are 7 copies needed. And we would very much appreciate them with some ahead of time.
So physically print out 7 copies and send them to you guys, or bring them to. Is there a physical place I can just bring them to versus sending them in snail mail? Like, could I just drive them to somewhere and hand it off to you guys, or?
Can they go to town hall, Kristen?
Yes, yeah, you can bring them right to town hall, to the town
Okay.
manager's office.
Mhm.
Town manager's office?
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay,
sure.
all right. Oh, I thank you. I thank you very much. I thank all of you. And now
Thank you.
we will move on. Bob, are you speaking for the group?
Well, I'll say a few words, but I think Jillian Erdos may have something to say, and Dave Siebert as well.
Fine.
Jillian is representing, is a Temple member who's involved with this project. And Dave Siebert is an architect.
Mhm. Okay.
So do you want me to just speak to it, or? you
Well,
have
why
something
don't we
to
start with, why don't we be consistent and start with Gloria and just start with a statement about what the house means to Needham. Okay. But if you would unmute yourself.
284 Webster is part of a constellation of Kingsbury houses that stretch from that house, that corner, through past May Street. The pair of actually basically two May Street, the house that comes out of May Street is also Kingsbury House. It's one of 6 standing Kingsbury houses along that stretch. Several others had been there and have since been demolished. The Kingsbury family owned pretty much all of the land between what we now think of as Route 128, Highland Avenue, Great Plain Avenue, and Rosemary Lake. It was a large family, a large series of family compounds. They were a founding family in the town, a major influence in its growth and economy. Thomas Kingsbury was himself a selectman, an assessor, a treasurer, a deacon of the one of the founding members and deacons of the Congregational Church when it was new. This was a family in general that was deeply woven into the town's history, and Thomas Kingsbury Sr., the builder of this house, was himself a significant participant in the town's history.
Okay. All right. Now you know where it stands in Needham's history. Bob, why don't you speak, or members of your group speak to what you?
Okay, I'll be brief.
Mhm.
I understand you're determining whether the house is historically significant or not, and if you determine it is, then you have to decide whether it should be preferably preserved, meaning worthy of a demolition delay. The temple acquired the property in January of 2022 and took title in the name of an LLC. It's rented out. What the temple wants to do is to take down the house and the outbuilding, which I believe is a garage, on the premises. And they want to create additional parking because the temple has been growing significantly, its membership in the last several years. And there are only 88 spaces, I believe, on site. And I mean, it's sufficient for now because of COVID and, everything is still remote, but we expect that that's going to change fairly soon. And the idea is that for the parking, what would happen is you come in off the entrance into the temple, which most you may all be familiar with it. You would immediately take a right into this lot, and you could drive through and park either on the right or park on the left, and the cars exiting would continue forward and re-enter the temple driveway. There's not really a good alternative for the temple in terms of creating this parking, and so they feel it's something that they have to do. And I would request that the commission at least consider whether it determines that the house is historically significant or not, that the commission consider not finding it historically significant because it's pretty clear that, you know, the temple will simply wait out the demolition delay period. There's not really an alternative that they have that would result in preserving the structures on the property. So I guess that's all I have to say. Perhaps Jillian or Dave Siebert would like to speak to this a little further.
I just much of the same. Thank you guys for hearing us about the property. I am personally very anti taking anything down ever. So I've been in real estate for a long time. But this particular property, not only has it been completely changed and added onto and renovated many times, it sort of sits in a prime spot for us, which is why we bought it. I just wanted to correct the record. We bought it in 2021. And we've been renting it out. Right, Bob? I don't think it was 2022. It was
No,
a year ago.
did I say 22? It was 2020. I'm looking at the deed.
2020. It's been a while, and basically
Yeah, the
we've
deed
left
was
the tenants
recorded-
there.
the
We
deed
became
deed was recorded, it looks like, in October of 2020.
right. So so we've had it for a little while. We've been trying to be really thoughtful about what to do with it. We would have used it as classrooms. We've tried that. Dave Siebert can talk to that a little bit if it's necessary. It's really not a usable space for the temple because of its inside. It just doesn't work as classroom space or office space. And we've been renting parking elsewhere where kids have to cross Highland Avenue, and it's quite expensive. So you know, this particular spot, not only does it make complete sense, it also won't change the life of Needham Town people, because we already go in that driveway. We always already come out that driveway. So the only sad part is there won't be a house there. It will be cars, but that's sort of the way we use the space now anyhow. So yes, we do certainly prefer to preserve it, but the long-term goal is to basically alleviate the neighbors, the need for, you know, as you all probably know, several times a year and events and stuff, we do park along Greendale. So this would alleviate a lot of that. And I think, you know, bring us to a really good place where we can be good neighbors overall.
Okay. Dave, do you have some thing to add at this point?
Sure. Well, just to add to the architectural piece of it, unfortunately, the house has very little original detailing left. I've spotted one window that could be historic above the main entry door. Other than that, it's all vinyl, and the interior has obviously been converted into a multifamily use, 2 units, multi-levels inside with several additions. And there is a small garage in the back that was obviously added on as well. It's detached, but as far as the significance aesthetically today, it's pretty well masked as far as the historic qualities. And when we're looking at it to occupy it for classrooms and offices, as Jillian mentioned, the multi-level within the interior, it's kind of problematic. And then upstairs, there's several very narrow hallways, and that's also a multi-level second floor as well. So the whole thing would have had to be restructured to get that to work.
Okay, thank you. Commission members, do you have things that you would like to add? Is there someone who would like to make a motion? And then we can vote on it.
I actually want to do a quick comment in response to Bob. Going to the second hearing does not necessarily mean that the delay will be imposed. But the purpose of that step, and one of the reasons it's rare that we shortcut that step if the house is found to be historically significant, is that it gives us more of an opportunity for study. It gives the neighborhood notification that the plans are going forward, and it just makes much more, it makes a much broader conversation. And within that is, contained within that is indeed the discussion of, the integrity of the house at this point, the likelihood of survival, the planned use, on the positive side, disruption to the neighborhood on the negative side. There are a lot of issues that factor into that we really can't address at this point, which is one of the reasons that if we do find it significant, we go forward with the second discussion. But the second discussion does not guarantee that we are going to impose the demolition delay. The point of the second discussion is to discuss whether or not we will impose the demolition delay.
Okay. That understood? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Are there other comments, questions, quibbles? Rick? Rick, yes?
Yeah, it's somewhat torn because in terms of Dave's comments about the condition of the house, it has significantly changed since its origin. However, it is representative of a significant personage in the history of the town. And these structures become the memory of the town. And when the structures are gone, the memory often goes with it. So that's an obvious concern. So, and to follow up with what Gloria had said, or in terms of Bob's suggestion, passing on whether or not it's, not historically significant because of a convenience factor probably is not the appropriate direction we should take. And as Gloria had said, it should be an open item, and that's what the demolition hearing would be would involve, involving the neighbors as well to let them know what the possible outcomes would be. But it's not necessarily a fait accompli that a demolition delay would be imposed, but certainly it would open it to the neighborhood for comment.
Okay. Yes, Laura. Laura?
Yes, sorry. Yeah, so my understanding is our job is simply to decide whether it's of historical significance and should be preserved. The
Yes.
other issues around traffic and convenience and whatnot are not under our purview. That's my understanding.
That's correct. That is correct. That is correct. Okay. In that case, you have made very good cases for your position, and the commission members. Do I have a motion for this particular piece of property for 284 Webster Street? Well, as chair, I can't do it. Oh, I see. You're writing, Gloria. Okay, fine.
And like somebody else, that I would make a motion that the commission would find that the appropriate name.
284 or the Kingsbury
Yeah,
House?
and on Form
284
B20, State Form B23, the Kingsbury, that Thomas Kingsbury House be considered historically significant.
Okay. And that was very eloquently done. And do I have a second to that?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Laura spoke first, so, okay. And now we will have a vote. Gloria, how do you vote?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And Don?
Aye.
Okay, and Laura? Laura?
Aye.
Oh, thank you. And Rick?
Aye.
Okay, and I am going to vote aye also. And just as we told Vadim, we will be in touch with you shortly about when the public hearing will be held and the process that you have to take. I do have a question for those folks who have been around on the Historical Commission longer, since obviously the temple does not, has specific plans for the land. Is that what should be presented to the Historical Commission at the public hearing? And is that really something that we vote on?
No, we would only be determining whether or not we would impose the demolition delay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the purpose of after it's demolished, that's really planning board and building department and
Everyone else.
whatever
Okay.
purview town department would be responsible.
The plans, the 7 copies of plans, they usually applies for, a renovation, rebuild, or some other, structure replacing it. And that's not the case in this situation.
Okay.
So are you saying we don't need to produce plans? It's more historical.
We need copies of the demolition paperwork, essentially, the demolition application paperwork. We don't need, a layout of the new parking plan, for example. Yes, we don't need your building plans going forward. We need copies of the demolition request and the paperwork that you produce for the building department.
And again, that can be delivered to town hall. And
I do have a question about that. Let me get my glasses on so I can read here. I'm looking at the bylaw. The bylaw says that the application need not be accompanied by evidence of workers' compensation coverage or letters from utility providers that the utilities have been disconnected. Well, I guess that's in order for the referral to the commission. Let me ask you, do you need to see that kind of information which goes along with a demo permit application to the building department? Do you need to see workers' comp coverage and letters from utilities?
no.
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 Okay.
No, it's-
Building department.
Right. Okay.
All right. Okay. So we have declared 2 houses to be historically significant, and we will move on and we'll let you know how things are going to proceed. And you are certainly very free to stay for the rest of our meeting. We will be talking about.
Could I ask a question?
Absolutely.
I noticed with the last applicant that you provided a date for the hearing of April 14th. Is it possible that we could get on for the same day?
Yes.
But actually,
And
isn't that the deadline, the last day?
That's the deadline.
45 days. Yeah.
we have 45 days in which to have this meeting. Having it sooner would be not a problem at all. So that is that's the very last date on which we could have it. And we would
Okay.
like to have it
So,
sooner.
so we should get our materials into you as soon as possible and request a hearing date.
Yes.
Okay.
And the hearing date is going to depend very much on our conversation with Town Hall about the possibility of having it as a face-to-face meeting as well as Zoom. Just because I'm sure you've been on Zoom meetings where there are 4 and 5 pages of people, and it's very difficult to keep track of who is saying what. So it would be a good thing to have this in person for those who are
agree.
comfortable. Yes.
So we don't have to request the actual date. You'll be
No,
setting that up.
we'll take care of that and we will have both of them on the same day.
Okay.
which Is,
Who should we submit to? Should we submit to the chair or
no,
to
you
the
can
town
actually-
manager's office?
the town manager's office. And then
So
Kristen.
Rose, they can bring everything to me and then you and I can talk tomorrow about what space is available at town hall to hold these 2 hearings.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, so you'll bring it to Kristen in the town manager's office.
great. Kristen, are you in all day tomorrow?
I am, yes.
I'll stop in.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, okay,
Okay.
we are going to move, and you are definitely welcome to stay. We're going to move on to discussion of the minutes of the December meeting and the January
Okay.
meeting. And
I'm going to take off. Thank you.
we're going to say goodbye.
Thank you all.
Good night. Good night. Okay. Do you have questions, having had a chance? I hope that Dylan was able to get the December and January minutes out almost right after, we had them almost right after the January meeting. Do you have any questions at all about the December meeting, which is the time when we met with Hank Haff and a architect from Bargman Hendry, and Dr. Gutenkens was there to talk about the Emery Grove rebuilding. We reviewed all of the prior minutes that had to be approved. We talked about local historic districts, and I'm reviewing this just because I understand that it may have been a while since you had a chance to read these. Do you have any comments, questions, criticisms, quibbles, anything?
I will move to accept the minutes of
Okay.
December.
Okay, thank you. And a second, please. Thank you, Don. All right, all those in favor, and again, Gloria,
Aye.
thank you. Don,
Aye.
okay, and Laura,
Aye.
okay, and Rick.
Aye.
And I am going to vote aye also, and we will move on to the January. Yes?
Oh,
Yes. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
I just have a question on the format of the, I don't know if it's appropriate to talk about it now, but if we could follow the format of the December minutes, I think that's very helpful to, break it out that way with the headings. Sort of
Yes,
use that as a model.
yes. Okay, excellent. That is actually the Grice model, I think. So, well done.
Sitting here typing, thinking, oh, damn, do I have to reformat all of these?
No, no, we've spent enough time on minutes. Thank you very much. Okay, let us go to the January minutes, which don't have the folded headings, but it's when we met with Peter Pignatore and Jean McKnight and talked about the community preservation, and we'll be talking about that in a minute. And we talked more about local historic districts, and we talked a little bit about the Tolman Gay House. And that was it. Any comments, corrections, things that should be changed? In that case, may I have a motion to accept the minutes? Yes, Gloria.
Moved.
Okay, thank you. And who will second it? Oh, thank you, Don. Okay, I'm going to have to do this again. Gloria.
Aye.
Okay, Don.
Aye.
Okay, Laura.
Aye.
Okay, and Rick.
Aye.
And I am also going to vote yes. Oh, good. Okay. Now, we get to some really interesting stuff, I think. And that is, we're going to talk about the changed wording for the text about historic preservation in the community preservation plan. And Laura, who's a member of the CPC, did a first cut at this and I think simplified it considerably and made it a lot easier for us to for the public to understand. Laura, would you talk a little bit about what your thinking was when you were doing this?
Sure, and I didn't do this. I had a lot of help from Rose and from Dawn, so thank you for that. Do you want me to share my screen so you can, are you looking at it? Are you able to?
Oh, as a
see what
matter of
everybody-
fact, Kristen has the document.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay. Kristen?
So Kristen, can you pull up the one entitled edits to the CPC document, please?
Yes, it's just a Word document, right?
Yes, it's just a
Yep.
Word document. Yep. Actually, you don't have a way of putting two documents up at once, do you?
Which other document are you looking for?
The current.
Pages
CPA plan.
17 to 19 of the CPC document.
Can you
Next
see the first one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you could do that, I'm going to be so impressed. Like that's
I don't think I can because it's going to be in two different windows,
okay.
but let
Okay.
me
Okay.
try.
Well, if not, then can
So
I?
is the other one named Word version of CPA Plan 2014?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, let me just see what I can do.
Okay. And I may come to you with my next problem with the computer.
And Kristen, if you can't, I hate to do this, but can we go? I changed my mind. Can we go back and put the original up first?
Yeah, hold on one
Sorry.
second. No, sorry.
And
I'm
it's
thinking it might be
pages-
good to look at what we have first before we.
and it's
Yeah, so it's
pages-
only allowing me one. Oh,
Okay.
wait, hold on. I lied.
You're going to split your screen?
Can you see both right now?
Oh my
Yes,
goodness, yes. Can you
amazing.
take, can you take the existing one, the document entitled Community Preservation Plan and go to page like 17 or 18, wherever it's, wow. Did you split your screen on your PC and that's how you did it?
No, I was able to, if you hit
There you are.
control, you can hit the two screens that you want to share.
That's amazing. Okay, so yeah, right there is
Thank you.
perfect.
Okay.
Oh, that's
Wonderful.
amazing. Thank you. So here's where we were before, where we basically listed documents, I'm sorry, the inventory, and we referenced the number of them. Can you scroll down a little bit, Kristen? And then we reference Macris, and that has a different number of properties. And then if we go down to the goals, we've got one paragraph, and then we've got factors for consideration. And so one thing that Dawn really pointed out, which was a good point, was that every section of the CPA plan has those, at least those three categories. So they have the resources and needs, the preservation goals, and the factors for consideration. So we didn't want to deviate from that. But then if we look at the document that was edited on the right side of your screen, you might recall that when we spoke to Peter Pingatore, there was a discussion about, instead of listing every property, we should just have a link, because that's that can change, right? We don't have to change this plan every time that changes. We might not want to list a number of properties either, because that can change. So the first change you'll see is that there's a link to the inventory. And I'm sorry, but that last piece where it says historic properties, that should be part of the hyperlink. So we still have some cleaning up to do on that. And then we thought macros could be confusing to people, so we just made a reference to the Commonwealth of Mass and the Needham Historical Commissions. In the next section, Kristen, can you go up on the left a little bit to section B? Is that possible on the left document? There you go. Okay. So that was just one paragraph, and the terms of vessels and archaeological sites just didn't seem to me to be super relevant to our town now, but and I think Rose and John to some degree agreed. And so we just found some other terminology that we thought made more sense for Needham. And I did go out to other town websites to look for what they reference in their plans. And so the language that you see on the right is what we think might make a little more sense and resonate more with people. And then, so those were the changes there. You can see instead of that one paragraph, we've got these 3 bullet points. And then in section C, I don't think we made many changes here, correct? We didn't, I don't believe we made any changes to section C.
We didn't.
So that's where we ended up. I didn't show a red line because the red line would be super busy with all of the deletions of the 100 and whatever properties there were before. And so these 2 documents are what I want to present to the CPC as they work through the whole CPA plan. And, they're dealing with obviously, parks and recreation and affordable housing. And all of the other constituents that have input into this plan or take advantage of this plan and the CPA resources. So those are on the right are my suggested changes, as I said, again, with the support of Dawn and Rose. And we'd like to take a vote on this tonight. Rose, is that right? And so that we can share this with CPC so that they can move on with the, with this and the rest of the changes that they need to make based on all of the other constituents that are affected by the plan.
Okay. Are there
I'd say
any?
Laura and Rose and Dawn, great job. I think it really cleans it up, gives a lot more information. I think you did a great job.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Rick. I think also the one thing that is that might have an impact on the commission is that we looked at Mass Historical, the site, and then we looked at Macris, and they're just too confusing for somebody who hasn't used them. So we just said, get in touch with the Historical Commission. And people are able to do that. We had a question today about a historical plaque, which I sent to Gloria because I don't know all of the rules. But I think that, okay, so do we have then a motion to accept this?
Rose,
Yes.
if Laura, if you don't mind, I just want to mention one more thing. Just as a side note, we
Yep.
do need to sort of, I did an analysis of what was on the town site and what was listed on Macris.
Mhm.
And there are some obvious differences where
Right.
things on Macris included like sort of railroads and bridges and not necessarily like homes or buildings. And I understand that, but there were a few that were listed on the Macris site that were homes, not things of that nature, that weren't listed on our town site. So I think we need to kind of at some point like just take a look. I think I sent everybody
Mhm.
my notes on what was on one and not on the other and vice versa. So I just want to say just that at some point we should look and just make
We should
sure,
clean it up.
yeah, just make sure we have everything we're supposed to,
Yeah.
Right.
at least on
Gloria,
our
I think
site.
Gloria, I think it's the 5 X factor houses that never got permission. Were inventory but never got permission from the owners.
Gloria, you're muted.
So I'm looking at my notes and my screen at the same time, so I don't see that. The state's made decisions about properties that are not on our, neither within our purview nor within our interest. The highway bridge crossing Central Avenue at Upper Falls, for example. You know, it was built in the 60s and it was just rebuilt 2 years ago. I mean, why that's on the list of historic assets, I'm really not sure. Certainly it's not on our inventory.
No, I agree. But
There
there
are sort of
There were some-
discontinuities as well, and their list is
Yes.
not as complete as our list, and their list
Yep.
contains ours. So yeah, I think this is a really nice job. This makes it easy to find. Using the link makes it easy to keep it up to date.
Mhm.
Good job, guys.
Thank you so much.
Really looks
Yeah,
nice.
but, Gloria, that there's 5 houses, for example, the Leslie Cutler house. You know,
Yeah,
I think those are the X factor houses that never got authorization to be put on the
Yeah.
inventory.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, no one's gonna ever audit us on this. I'm just saying, I literally spent 2 hours matching up the lists and making notes on each one.
yeah,
And so I'm not, you know, I understand about the railroads and the bridges and the whatnots, but there were still some homes, some structures with names. And
Yeah.
in some cases, like, you know how we were saying like 28, was it 284, the Wyoming house, right?
Yeah.
That address was really not there when the home was created. So I think a few of them could be under that kind of umbrella. But
Yeah,
so- Yeah,
but as Rick said, there were 5 that are on the list that have X's. That's why I call the X, they have X's before the number. Because we had verbal agreements for them and then never got a written confirmation. So they're sort of in
Understood.
limbo.
okay. Well, I just wanted to share my little,
Yeah.
you know,
Um,
experience, but it was very informative, I will say.
We will, I think, be able to get it cleaned up. And
Yeah.
it's just a matter of doing the grunt work of making sure.
And
then-
you know what? I'm not sure it really matters, to be perfectly honest. You know, just being honest, but in any event, so if you guys, if you're okay, if we could, I don't know if I can make the motion because I'm presenting
Yes,
this,
you-
but if,
I think you can. Yes, I'm the
I
only one
can?
who can't make motions. Right?
okay.
Rose,
So I've never made a motion before. So would I say, I'd like to make a motion to accept the changes as presented for the Historical Commission section of the CPA plan?
Second,
Perfect.
Excellent. All right, and we're going to go through the list again. There has to be a better way to do this. If you watch high school quiz show and the kids who have an answer and it's right, you do green. And if it's wrong, it's red. Well, we ought to be able to do that. Kristen, there's another job.
Kristen, thank
Okay.
you for that. That was really great. I'd love to know how you did that, how you
You're
shared
welcome.
your screen like that. Yeah,
I'll email you how I did it.
yeah, that would be awesome.
Okay, Gloria. Do you approve this draft or nay?
I was looking under reactions, you could get a thumbs up, but I couldn't find a thumbs down.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Wait,
I would
what
give you,
about-
I'd give you the thumbs up. I was just saying, if you did not approve, how do you?
What about an emoji? Can we use emojis?
But in fact, if we all did thumbs up or nothing, then we'd be voting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm doing my thumbs up.
Except the little rigmarole at the beginning says you have to do a roll call.
Oh, it does.
but
Oh,
yeah,
it does.
and if there was a member of the public who didn't have video, they wouldn't be able to see it. so
They
you'd
wouldn't
have to
see that,
record it
yeah.
verbally.
That's true. Okay, so much for that idea. All right, we will then go through the list for the.
We're a
CP.
very good group together, right? We need each other a lot.
Yes, a lot. Okay, Gloria. Yes, you said yes already.
Aye.
Okay, Don.
aye,
Okay, Laura,
All right.
I would hope so, and Rick.
No, Aye.
And wow, see, okay, that is passed. That is really good work. I'm pleased with that.
Thank you.
Now, the last time that we met, we talked about a lot of different things about local historic districts. One of the things that I sent out this past week was a notice about part 2 of the Mass Historic Commission's talking about administering a local historic district. It's going to be on March 10th at 1 p.m. If you signed up, you get the tape anyway. You don't have to be there if you have to do something annoying like work. But it is very good. I also sent a link to part 1 because it is excellent, because it talks about how you need to develop your audience's approval of local historic districts. And you need to do that long before you do anything like go to a town meeting. So we put together elevator speeches and bullet points for talking about local historic districts. The elevator speeches, there are 3 of them. Different sizes depending on how long your ride is. You're not expected to memorize them or anything like that. The whole purpose is to make sure that we are all emphasizing the same things when we talk with people. And the second one, which I will give Don credit for, is terrific because it makes the connection to Needham and the number of houses that we have lost since the Historical Commission was formed, which I think is dynamite. So try to get 2 floors at least, is my feeling. I don't know whether all of the people who responded to the elevator speech actually did it based on the benefits of local historic districts. So Kristen, could you put up elevator speeches? Hello? Thank you. So again, thinking of the audience is, of course, town meeting members eventually, because we need a 2/3 majority in order to get a local historic district. But the audience is also the general populace of Needham and, importantly, the select board. The elevator speech is probably used in kind of more informal times. But what I've given you here are 3 possibilities, and then the benefits of local historic districts promulgated by Mass Historic Commission, which I think are really, really good. Any comments? And if you want to add more, just send them to me and I'll just keep adding to them, okay? Let us move on to the bullet points, because I think that's another thing, and we'll just get rid of the elevator speeches and go to the bullet points, Kristen, which would be right next to the elevator speech. Okay, and I think that this is really interesting, and I thank everyone who gave stuff, but this is not a done deal. Everyone can add to this. Yes, Mo, you have your hand up. And you're muted.
I do have my hand up, and I just have a perspective that I'd like to insert and then reel back. As many of you know, I'm very interested in establishing a single building historical district, and I'm willing to participate in that effort as a model. I think what distinguishes my effort from what this could be interpreted as is that it is totally voluntary and affects only one owner. And I think based on my experience in Needham, if people believe that they're going to be forced into an historic district that they're not opting into voluntarily, it will be very difficult to get consensus to adopt even the effort I'm trying to make with respect to the single building I am trying to save.
Right.
That's the only point I would make with respect to the elevator speech and how one would establish a methodology going forward for Needham. And again, I have a very parochial interest. I'm trying to save a house that sits on too much land in this market. So I'm very sensitive to not having this pass if we decide to go that, if you decide to go that route.
Oh, based on your experience in town meeting, do you think it would be easier to get the political will to be able to get something passed in town meeting of just the one house historical district? And
I do.
then- yeah.
I do,
Yeah, and then-
because it doesn't adversely affect anyone except the person who is trying to do it, who may experience some loss in value. I don't
Yeah.
happen to believe that, but at least that is the risk for the one person seeking to do it, or anybody else who seeks to do it on a one structure or one property, let's put it that way, one property effort.
Yeah, property by property, the individual owner gets to make the decision, nobody else.
Yeah, because if you look at the history of the buildings around town, you had, what was it, 5, Gloria, that ended up without anything establishing that the owner wanted to do it. And then when the discussion happened with this body and the then select board at the time about extending the demolition delay, you had this barrier that you couldn't overcome. So that's what I'm trying to avoid in this effort with respect to getting it to happen at least once. And then that could become a template for an expansion of that effort if there were the
Right.
political will for that. But I'm looking at a market and an old house and how long my family may or may not live in that house.
So we just need to, it basically is saying that it will be easier to get town meeting to pass a individual, a language in the bylaws that says that an individual owner could create his own historic district. And just get that language in the town bylaw to allow people to do that.
I think that can happen concurrently with an application to create the single property district based on my conversation with MHC today and my reading of their material. There needs to be a bylaw, but that bylaw can occur when there is an application if the select board decides to appoint a committee.
Right.
But I'm not a lawyer, so, but
Yeah.
that was my read.
Would it be useful? Do we have other folks in town that may be interested in a single house district to join? We'd have to obviously find who they were and then give them some background, and maybe they could join Mo in.
I haven't talked to
petitioning?
another owner. Gloria may know somebody, but again, my particular parochial interest is to get this process going because it takes forever to get that much buy-in by those many authorities and town meeting in the end.
Yep.
But I think it's doable if it's clear that this is voluntary and it affects one property.
Because all it takes is one, and that gives us the door for other folks to take advantage.
It becomes a template.
Right.
Mhm.
And it doesn't involve any economic ask of the town. Nobody's seeking a grant here. There's no town expense. I don't know if it affects the assessment. I suspect it doesn't. But
Yeah. It's the doorway in.
right.
Okay.
It's Laura, and I have a question. I can't see anybody. I can't, and so I don't know if I'm jumping in at the wrong time,
So
but,
go right ahead and Don will speak after you.
oh,
Okay,
Dawn,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No,
So my question is, Mo, like, if it's kind of a lot of work for just one home. So to put language in to a bylaw, or to try to, for one property, I mean, I'm not sure I understand that. Wouldn't you want to put language in that allowed for one property at a time, but not limit yourselves
That's
to
a
one
question
property?
that's a question for the town council. My understanding is that once this happens, that brings 40C into effect. So even if it's one property, the next property to apply is applying in a situation where the select board has appointed a committee and town meeting has approved the district. And the town is then, and it takes 2/3 vote, I believe, is then 40C compliant. But I could be wrong. I think the town council needs to be brought into this, which
Okay,
means,
yeah,
I would think that the first one is always going to be the template for everything that follows. And, I would agree with Laura that you could say, that the district can be, as large as necessary and as small as one property. But you have that, instead of saying, we're creating a one property district. In this case, we're creating one property district, but for the bylaw, I think you would have to be more open to a broader, a broader potential range. In fact, probably more necessary to specify that a one property district is allowable. Because people will assume that a multi-property district is what you're aiming for.
yeah, and if I may,
exactly.
if I
Yeah.
can respond to that, Madam Chair, may I?
yes, you may.
The difficulty is when you start to talk about a multi-property district, you need to define under what circumstances people are protected who live in a district, who bought a house when it wasn't a district, who don't want to be bound by that, and then are retroactively bound by it. And whether or not they are, what's their perception when it comes to town meeting? That's why, from my perspective, and again, I'm speaking for my own self-interest, to be clear here. Simple is best. And then if the town has experience in establishing a district and the mechanism to enforce it or monitor it, you have the template. And then if you want to fight the battle for multifamily district and go through the process of trying to define who can be in it and who can opt out when the district is designated, you have all the time in the world to do that. I'm looking at one property and watching what's happening all around me. You had 2 instances tonight. So, and I know the house on Wyoming. That's a beautiful house. I don't know what it is now, given the situation, but yeah. So to me, time is of the essence.
Yeah.
Every day that goes by, we lose more historic inventory.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, I mean, this is our foot in the door. This is more likely to get passed than going for the whole enchilada. This way, then individual owners that would come to us and say, what can I do? We have something for them to do.
It also gives the commission experience in administering a district because it's not a trivial task.
Right.
Historic New England gets $50,000 for administering an historic preservation on a house, a stewardship, but that's a much, much more comprehensive oversight than what's being proposed here, which is just the outside view of the house from public ways.
But we still have to follow the process.
Absolutely.
And the
So the
first step
select
in-
board
the
has
first
to
step in
appoint
the
a committee. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
right. No, the first step in the process is for the select board to create this study committee.
Right.
So that's That's the first hurdle. And then
So they have to be convinced to do that.
within the discussion of the study committee, then depending upon who's on the study committee, could guide the discussion towards a one house district. And then once that study committee is appointed, they then become the local district commission as opposed to the historical commission.
Right,
They're not going to be the same. But
right.
it is that first step. And how do we get the select board to appoint a study committee?
That's where I would suggest that you have a chair, vice chair meeting and ask for town council. But if you're clear on the goal, which is to establish a precedent and a template with a volunteer property,
Mhm.
they may be interested. If they're
Yeah.
not, then it's, we've got a difficult problem. But if they're interested,
Mhm. Mhm. And I think that the bullet points that were presented under why now? I mean, why do we need to do it now? I think is just really good. We're losing our history. And one of the things that Rick referred to today when talking about the necessity of recognizing historic properties is that people choose to live in Needham for a lot of different reasons, but one of them is a sense of place. And every time we lose an historic property, we lose a little bit of the sense of place. And, the question becomes then, which of these bullet points will be most successful with the select board so that they will then appoint a committee.
I think that'd be
Rose?
jointly the commission and Mo to make that argument. And certainly Mo would have the strongest effect because he'd be talking about the property that he wants to protect.
Mhm. Yes, yes. Laura, did you have your?
I did. Kristen, do you mind is it okay to take the document down now so we can see people? It's hard to know. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I mean, this is a discussion maybe for another time, but it's part of a bigger discussion with this town. This town has very few barriers to removing historic properties or any properties that would want to maybe be protected for affordability or anything else. A 6-month delay is, as we know, really, it's just at the end of the day, it's a delay, and that's what it is. So I know it's a huge, bigger issue, but if we don't find a way to get some consensus for what we really want to do, does the town, not just us, really want to preserve these properties and do something different to our bylaws? It's not going to matter. It just isn't going to matter. And every other town, I did my research, every other like town that I could find, and I'm not an expert, but it has so much more stringent requirements to demolition delays than this town does. And if I know it's a hot potato and we like the developers and we love, the money they bring in, the tax base, but I'm telling you, if we don't change our bylaws for demo delays, none of this really is going to matter in the end, because this town is so attractive for developers. On my street right now, there are 5 demolished homes, 3 demolished homes and 2 about to be. And the builders that I talk to say, this is the easiest town to get it to build in. There's no rules. You wait 6 months, you know that going in, and you take the house down and you build.
Yep.
And I'm not trying to be dramatic, but that's the bottom line. We don't have any guidance here, any guidelines here. And until someone wants to change that and tackle that, it doesn't matter what we do, but greed is going to take over and it's going to have a path the way our demo bylaws read right now.
Okay.
And sorry, I'm off my soapbox.
No, probably if we took a vote, everybody would agree with you. Mo, go ahead.
I'm muted.
You're muted.
Laura, I agree with you, but to me, from where I sit, that's a lofty goal and I support that goal. That's going to take a lot longer and my house will be gone by the time. it's
I
achieved.
know, I
Right,
totally
so from
understand
where
that.
I sit, it's better, I think there's a really good chance to get an historic district bylaw in this town that would allow those of us who choose to live in historic buildings to make provisions that will survive our tenure in that building. I'm
I agree.
79 years old. I don't know how much longer I can live in this house, and I don't know how committed my estate will be to sitting on it for 18 months if they can't sell it.
Yep. I
So,
understand. But that's, as you said, that's one house at a time. And I totally resonate with what you're saying.
that
But it's
doesn't
one
mean you
house at a
can't,
time.
but it doesn't mean you can't do the other as well. It's a question of what you do first. And if we do nothing first, we're going to lose even more historic inventory. So what I'm trying to do is save our historic inventory, at least with respect to one property, which is the oldest house in zip code 02494 and the 11th oldest house in Needham and a Kingsbury house.
Mhm.
It's
I
worth
think one of the-
saving.
I don't think what I'm saying, I don't think these things are mutually exclusive at all.
No, but it's a question of what you do first. And from where I sit, you got to get that historic.
Well, of course, I
Yes.
mean, there's no way, I don't even, it would be like turning the Titanic to get this town to
Right.
change
Okay.
the demo
I think one of
bylaws.
one of
Go
the
ahead.
issues is that the state does not give us, there aren't any tools that the state provides a town other than the demolition delay. And even if you extend it to a year, 2 years, it still has very little effect on, whether or not a house, gets demolished. Because, because of that, there is also the question of political will in town meeting. I don't believe there is political will when it comes to their property. They don't want to have any restrictions. So it's sort of a half a loaf situation. If we could get this in, and then we can base it on that. But
I'm
would
not
say-
suggesting we don't do this first. I
Right,
am just
right.
saying this is part of a much bigger problem in this town.
yeah,
Um,
would.
Well, not a problem for everybody, but a problem for people who want historic and affordable housing preserved.
Yeah, I take what Mo says from a large measure, because he is someone who managed to have town hall renovated in the right way and get Powers Hall done. And that took a lot of work over a lot of time to get that consensus to go. So, if he gives a direction from a political standpoint that he thinks will work, I sort of listen to that, so.
Well, one of the things that we had talked about was actually going and meeting with the select board at some point when we have all our bullet points in place, and going to talk to the select board about ways to approach local historic districts. Do you think that's the best way to go, Mo? You're muted again. You can just stay.
I do,
muted.
because it's upfront. And they need to be, they are the gateway to this process.
Mhm.
It's a reasonable board. They may or may not agree with the approach. But they're going to have to decide to support it if it's going to go forward. They have to appoint a committee.
Yeah.
So I would talk to them and I would be as forthright as I possibly could be about the issue.
Okay. it would be nice to have you along at the meeting on a Friday morning, if that would be appropriate.
If it's appropriate, I'll happily do it, of course.
Yeah. I think also that if you take a few minutes and take a look at the bullet points and let's decide what we want to say, and then go and talk with perhaps Mary Ann, who has already spoken with the Historical Commission, and ask her to set up a meeting with with the Select Board. And we just start on this. I mean, Sun Tzu says you never go into battle unless you know you're going to win. But, you know, we really have a good argument here, I think.
I think you do. And I'm happy to be a soldier in your effort. You're leading this, but I am an active participant and I do have a clear goal and interest.
Mhm.
And in terms of the committee, Mo, was that, would that be something you'd be interested in?
If it were not considered to be a conflict of interest, of course. I mean, again, I think the town attorney needs to be involved in
Yeah, I
this,
think I agree. Yep.
discussion.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And do you think that should happen before the select board?
Oh, no. I think you need, what I would suggest doing, based on my experiences having been a select board member,
Yes, that's what we
is
need.
I would have your chair meet with the chair, vice chair of the select board,
Mhm.
and just tell them what you're considering doing and what you think the arguments for and against are, and you have your elevator speeches.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And this is a one-on-one meeting as opposed to the Friday morning meeting, which has a lot of people.
What is the Friday morning meeting?
I understand that there is a Friday morning meeting where,
The chair and vice chair's meeting.
yes.
Chair vice chair meeting used to be on Thursday morning. They may have moved it.
No,
but
it's
it
still on
was the
Thursday.
Chair, vice
It's on
chair, and
Thursday. Kristen's right, it's on Thursday. And
Yes,
you're
so-
right.
Thursday mornings.
so
Okay.
that generally involves the town. Again, I'm a little out of date, but used to involve the town manager, the chair and vice chair, and or individual chairs and vice chairs of other boards and committees that they are working on trying to come to some understanding of what everybody's doing. But it's a small meeting. It's
Yeah,
not a
that's still
large meeting.
correct.
And it's
It's still the same.
informal. It's very informal.
Yep.
And you'll get good feedback because the leadership has a lot of sway on the select board. So you'll get a sense from the chair, vice chair, if they're interested. And if they're not, it's going to be very hard to do this. If they are interested, then the only hang up there is whether the town manager and the chair and vice chair believe it's within the scope of the goals of the select board for the year, or if it has to wait until the goals are set for next year. Because those goals govern how much of the town manager's time and resources are spent on which priorities. And if they think this is time consuming and expensive, then I don't think it should be time consuming or expensive, but I could be dead wrong.
So if it's brought up this time and they say, geez, it's not really going to fit in for our next fiscal year goals, does that put it on a slate for the next year? Like, are we?
Well, I think you asked them in that meeting, we're interested in seeing this happen if you are. And what do we have to do to get this into the pipeline? We don't think it's going to take a lot of town resource, which I don't think it should.
Okay. Okay.
But-
Well, I would very much appreciate your taking a look at the bullet points that people have sent in. And if you have emendations and comments, you think they ought to be ordered differently. I think that it's much too long as it is because it needs to be a very hard-hitting presentation with
Are you
lots of,
speaking to me or your committee?
I'm speaking to all 6 of you.
Oh,
And you
okay.
too, Kristen.
All right.
Looking for comments. Looking for comments about, I would like you to take time, not right now, to read through the elevator speech, the bullet points, and any suggestions that you have from the 6 of you about what would be the most successful when we go and have this meeting.
Yeah. I had a
Yes,
question
Commissioner?
for Mo. When it comes to the appointment of the study group, the study committee, is that something that our commission should go in with some recommendations, or is that something that is totally up to the select board to come up with?
I think, well, it depends on what how the state law works, which I'm not intimate with. Typically on select board appointments, it's very personal to the vice chair because the vice chair screens appointees. But typically appointees positions are advertised. I think they have to be advertised. And then the vice chair and typically the chair of the receiving body, which in this case would be Ms. Doherty, would sit in on those interviews. The select board tries historically not to appoint people who won't fit in on a board or won't meet a particular need. You've got a situation here where you're appointing people who have to meet certain categories. I think it's an attorney, a lawyer,
Architect,
and an architect.
And a real estate person.
real estate.
No real estate, right, exactly. And frankly, who gets put on that committee are people you would want to be objective about this issue on both sides of it, because the committee's report has to be credible and objective.
Right.
Mhm. Right. Right. Okay. Mo, thank you for giving us your time.
Thank you for allowing me to participate. I'm going to let you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mo.
Thanks, Mo.
Thank you. And we have one other thing to decide. I don't think we have any. Do we have any new business? I should ask. The sign is up on the Central Avenue property saying coming soon. But we don't know what that means. And the question to be answered is for our March 21st meeting. Should we do Zoom and just make it, is that a prayer, Rick?
I love Zoom. As
I
long as
love
we can do
Zoom
Zoom,
too.
especially when it's cold outside. I just love Zoom.
And can I also say, I love Zoom when I have Kristen to put up the slides.
I know, she's so
Because
great.
That makes all the difference.
That's scarfing dinner like at 6:58.
Exactly.
I haven't eaten yet.
Oh, I think our next,
I-
that's our next meeting before April 14th.
Right. Oh,
So the
so-
issue is then, do we want to target our regular meeting for the hearings, or do we want to, slot in another meeting about 2 weeks later? Is that going to give, that might actually be, it may just be too short a time for the notification period,
mhm.
in which case we might, I mean, it's really cutting it close. So I don't think we could actually get the 3 weeks notification in by the time of the next meeting, which means do we want to meet and then meet again in a week, or do we just want to set our next meeting for the hearing?
Do we have to, okay, if we're going to have the hearing, do we want to have this face to face. I would think so, rather than,
If we can, yeah, if we can.
so then it becomes a question, Kristen, when someplace like Powers Hall might be available, because that's one that we have no idea how many people are going to show up.
Yeah, so I will look tomorrow, look at the schedule to see what's booked, because I know it is filling up quickly.
Mhm.
And see if there are a couple of dates that you would prefer for me to look at, that everyone is available.
After the 21st,
Actually, yeah, I think 21st would not be possible because for the hearings.
Right.
okay.
And sorry, did you decide the 21st? Are you on Zoom? Is that what?
No, that's 21st is not going to work at all.
No, for your next meeting, your
Oh.
regular.
For a regular meeting.
Yeah. Are you on Zoom or did you want in person?
We would like Zoom.
Okay.
If you all feel that we need to continue the local historic district stuff, I think we do.
Yeah,
Uh,
we do.
We need to keep moving on it. So we should have that on the 21st on Zoom.
Okay.
And then the question of the meeting in Powers Hall, you're going to check to see when it might be available.
Yep, so just remember you have voting on the 12th, right?
Yeah.
So that wouldn't be available.
Mhm. But the week of April 4th, that would give us enough time to do all of the letters to the abutters and the ads and everything, right?
Yeah.
So if you can find something in the week of April 4th,
Okay.
okay, that would be.
No
Yeah.
specific dates that we prefer over the other.
Well, I'm just looking on the town calendar, so it doesn't seem to be a lot that's scheduled right now, other than on April 5th from 3:30 to 6, and that's not at town hall.
Yeah, a lot of stuff probably wouldn't be posted on there just yet, so I'll have to look on the
okay.
back end.
Okay,
Sure. Okay.
and then,
Yeah, go ahead, Laura.
so Rose, when would you meet with the select, like, how are you gonna sort that, meeting with the select board?
Well, I would like, when I call to set this up, I'm going to need to have some bullet points, well, we already have them. And I think I can do that. I think it needs to be done like soon, like right away. Try to set up something because we don't want to get too close to town meeting. We, right,
Yeah.
have to just move on this.
And I guess that doesn't need to be answered now. I'm thinking of
don't have
you
an
and
answer.
your schedule and all these meetings and, you know.
This is such a biggie. I will just move. I will just move the mountain, thank you. I mean, this really does need to be done, and having someone like Mo on our side is really significant. So sooner rather than later to have the first conversation and then the Thursday morning meeting whenever the select board feels it is a good time to do. Yes,
Right.
you have any comments? Critiques? Should we let Laura go have her dinner?
Yeah, I'm not sure what's cooking over there, but I'm gonna go see.
Oh, okay. Anyhow, I have a motion to adjourn then?
So moved.
Thank you, Gloria.
Second,
Thank you, Don. Thank you for a really good meeting. I think we did proudly by the town. We did the things that
You
were
did
necessary.
great.
Lot done
And-
tonight.
Do you need to take a roll call or not?
Oh, for the adjournment?
Yeah,
Okay, Gloria.
Aye.
Okay, Don,
aye.
Laura,
aye.
Rick,
Aye.
and I'd like to stay here for another 2 hours. But I'm
Great
outvoted.
job, Rose. Listen,
Hey,
it's not
Rose.
even 9
But also I
o'clock.
want to shout out Kristen. She did a